When Mr. Robbins came into my life, in the beginning, it was more of a shock. I had just moved to Westminster. It was my first day in school. And I remember we were getting close to wrapping up for the day. And the counselor comes and knocks on the door. All he says is, "I'm here for Julian." And at the time, I could have played it off as like, okay, there's other Julians in the class, except the one downfall was I was the only Julian in the class. So I knew it was for me. And the first thing I'm thinking is, how did I manage to get in trouble on my first day when I was just at school trying to mind my own business? And he walks me out to the hallway. And the first thing he tells me is, "My name is Mr. Robbins. It's a pleasure to meet you." That took me by shock. It was a teacher at the school who already knew who I was going into the school, and I at the time had no prior knowledge of the school, of any of the teachers there, the principal, any of the students. All I knew was one of my cousins was going to the same school. And he tells me that he knows my dad, my aunt, and my uncle, as well as my grandparents from my dad's side, because they all went to the same elementary school. So he was a very good family friend of ours. Once he gave me that reassurance, it was a lot more calming. Later that school year, there was a student I had gotten into an altercation with. I was talking with one of my friends, and he introduced me to another kid. And at the time, I was just kind of like, the kid and I were talking. He didn't like me. I don't know why he didn't like me, but he just wasn't having it. He didn't want to have anything to do with me. He just kind of saw me and was like, "Yeah, I already don't like you." And the kid ends up stabbing me with a Swiss Army knife. Granted, Swiss Army knives aren't that dangerous, but in my mind, I had gotten stabbed. What's the first reaction for me? I end up socking the kid in the face. I had punched him back, and it became a whole ordeal because one of the staff on the playground saw what happened, but they didn't see the kid stab me with the Swiss Army knife. All they saw was, oh, one student just hit another student for no reason. So when it came to talking to the principal and others, it was a matter of, they would ask me, why did I punch this kid? And I just told them, self-defense. They asked what I was defending myself from. I'd never said, though. This kid was in the 3rd grade. I didn't know if he came from a similar background to mine, where you kind of learn certain things early on, or if he was just a naive kid or a spoiled brat that doesn't get his way, and if he doesn't get his way, he can lash out how he wants to. I didn't know, and I didn't want the kid to get suspended either from a school where he's just getting started. So I just said, I was just defending myself. There's no need to know what it was from, just know I was defending myself. And Mr. Robbins pulled me to the side and he asked me, well, why'd you hit the kid? You know, like, why did you hit this kid right now? It just looks like you hit a kid for no reason. Tell me why. I gave him the rundown. I showed him it was a little scar on my forearm. It was just like a little opening. It wasn't even that deep. It was just more of a prick than anything else on my skin. Mr. Robbins just looks at me and he said, okay, well, you reacted in kind. He said, that's expected of you to do. He then asked me what I wanted to do moving forward. I just asked him, what's the best way for me to not get expelled from school? And he told me, I'll take care of it. I ended up with a couple of days of detention, and that was the end of that situation. After that experience, I was a lot more comfortable with having Mr. Robbins around. But not only did Mr. Robbins help me out in a lot of situations, he was also a father figure for me for those couple years that I was at Westminster. He would take time out of his day to talk to me. He would ask how I'm doing, how my family was doing. He'd ask, about how I'm doing in school. He encouraged me to pursue art. Mr. Robbins he played a huge impact. He played a huge role in my life for those elementary school years. I have him to thank, honestly, for a lot of being in a more, I guess, stable headspace at the time.